All right. Welcome to the Drag and Drive Show, guys. This is the newest format for this channel. We obviously have the Drag and Drive news that comes on Saturday mornings. That is 9 a.m. Eastern. Comes on, gets everything rolling for the week, is a quick 30-minute knockout information. But guys, this show is a little more laid back. We're going to have guests. We're going to talk about Drag and Drive news. We're going to talk about Drag and Drive cars. This is going to allow an opportunity for the guests to tell a little more of a story, get in there, kind of explain more about a car. We've actually got Bill Spangler, Mr. 1000 is what I call him. He's in backstage right now. He is our first guest for the night. And then we have Calvin and Andrew Nelson that are coming on after that. We're going to talk some Midwest drag stuff. We're going to talk Sick Week, which both of these guys I think are signed up for. We'll get definite confirmation from them both. So that's exciting. And just what it takes to, do a drag and drive, what it takes to be a drag and drive competitor. And it is hot in this room right now. I've had the heaters on for about 2 hours in here. So going to turn those off here in just a minute once we get rolling, because I want to talk about a few things. I have said that Eric White of 815 LSX Swaps is my guest co-host. I think the plan is to have a guest co-host every week. We may move that around some, but I think Eric will be the most attended guest host that we have. Him and I have a really good relationship, especially from PRI, and we have the same goals, just to keep growing and bring as much content to the YouTube and Facebook Drag and Drive community as possible. So if you haven't started following him yet, definitely do that. 815 LSX Swaps on Facebook, Instagram, every social media outlet you have, you can follow them. I do want to have a quick update, and I'll go into more of this detail on Saturday morning's Drag and Drive news. But Sweet Patina has signed up for 2023 to bring us the Built for Drag and Drive segment again. I want to say thank you to them. This is awesome because their involvement allows us to visit builders across the country. It's going to allow us more time to be devoted to bringing you guys the stories of these racers and cars that are built specifically for drag and drive. But I need a favor. I need you to help me peer pressure them. I have given them a spot at the circuit, which is our drag and drive event in April at Mocan Dragway in Joplin. I need you to help me peer pressure them into coming. They have a 57 Chevrolet wagon. They have a rooftop tent that they carry on it. They travel all across the country, but have never done a drag and drive event. So we need to nudge them into doing one. I think a regional event would be perfect for them. As short as it is, it would be easy maybe to fit into their schedule. So again, sweetpatina.com or the Sweet Patina at all of your social media sites to get them to come to the circuit in April. All right, let's jump in and talk to Bill, see what he's got going on. And while he introduces himself, I'm going to turn this heater off because it's blowing right in my eye. So, all right, here we go. Bill, what is up, dude?
Nothing. What's happening, Mike?
Man, nothing. This heater's blowing right on me right now. So getting a little sweaty right here. So I'm going to put you up full screen. Tell everybody, who you are and a little bit of your history of some drag and drive stuff. And then we're going to go into your Midwest drags and some other history. I have all the data from that too. So we're going to talk about some of that stuff.
Okay. So Bill Spangler, have a 1980 Ford Fairmont that is named FUB. Has a big block Ford, naturally aspirated with the Marco Abruzzi Power Glide and a Gear Vendors overdrive. We put the cage in it at American Race Cars and set the car up there. This car was purpose built for drag and drive. It's something I've wanted to do for a long time, and people that know me, if we're going to do it the right way. So a lot of homework and trying to figure out all the right parts to put in the car, cooling system and transmission cooling, fuel system, just to make the car live. We've been very fortunate. Things have worked very well for us.
I think things have worked very well for you for sure. There was one day on Midwest Drags where you ran a 10001. Is that right?
We ran 10001. We actually, on day one this year, Midwest Drags, we left Edgewater with a 10.016 average.
Man, that's crazy. And considering you're so for everybody, and we'll talk about this in a few minutes, but you're SME class, which is 10,000 limited.
Right.
So you can't run any faster than that because you've been faster than that too.
Oh yeah, the car run faster than that. We slow it down for that for the 10.0
Yeah.
class. So we drove to Morocco, Indiana, made our 2 passes there. It actually lowered the average to 10.013. But unfortunately, on our way back, we made it to the checkpoint in Fostoria, and on our way to the hotel to Ashland, Ohio, we had the rocker mounting boss on the head break off.
In all of your years of racing, have you seen that happen? I mean, I don't feel like that's
that kind of stuff happen, but it's been a lot crazier engines, a lot higher lift cams, and lots of compression, and so it was rather odd. But we found out why it happened. Actually, have the cylinder heads repaired. Joe is picking them up tomorrow.
nice.
The Ford engine guy talked me into putting a set of John Kaase SR71 heads on it, and that picked up about 75 crank horsepower by doing that.
Dude, that's wild. That is absolutely wild. And so now you're even faster.
Yes.
So you're going to that'll give you a wider tuning window.
Yes,
we do have a special guest that has popped in here in the back, and I want to bring him on because you guys seem to run together at quite a bit of stuff, and so I feel like this will be fun. Tony, how are you, sir?
Hey, good. How are you guys?
We're doing great, man.
Good. How are you, Tony?
Hey, Mr. 960. I told Mike I was looking forward to talking to the 10-0 guy. He said you can call me 960 next year.
That's right. That's right.
Step up the program a little bit, just for you though.
You're the best.
Now, Tony has a turbo LSC10 truck that runs very well. They were both at Midwest Drags, both these guys, and got to spend some time with both of them in the lanes, and also in Tech with Bill and them. Had a great time. So, what's the plan? What's the bet for you guys for next year?
Probably just ice cream, but he eats a lot of ice cream, so I got to save some money. The thing is that
and, I figure when we get to 6 summer that we can match up and put some ice cream on the line.
Yeah, I won't be we could do that. I'm only going to make a converter change, so I'm hoping I'm probably in the 970 range, 980, just probably close enough to lose maybe by 1/10 of a second this time instead of a half second.
Yep. Here I see Joe popping in here too.
Hey, Joe.
The free ice cream is going to be awesome. I'm just telling you right
yes.
now.
I know.
That's exactly right.
I support you, my friend.
I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yep. Now, Tony, you were at Sick Week last year. Are you doing Sick Week again this year?
I'm just doing the 6 summer only.
There you go. There you go.
Yep. So just doing one event this year. So, doing 2 or 3 of those a year, it gets a little costly.
Hey, I can appreciate that. Yep, that's the way it works. Well, Tony, we're going to kick you out of here. You're going to have to go watch from the outside. We got to talk to Bill, man. Thank you so much for stopping by. I really do appreciate it.
Take care.
See you, Tony.
Awesome, man. Well, I love that guy, and I know you guys have a fun rivalry. I think I see quite a bit of ice cream being eaten. You guys must live pretty close to each other, I guess.
Actually, we don't. He lives in Indiana, somewhere above Elkhart, I do believe. I'm in Northern Ohio.
Oh,
man.
man.
I get to see him are on Dragon Drives, but I did run into him at the PRI show. He stopped.
Nice. Yeah, dude, I'm sorry I didn't come by and see you. I feel so bad. I was right there the whole time.
Well,
I probably passed you. Well, there's no excuse for that. I should have come by and seen you.
Well, we were busy in our booth. We never had time to get out. I left for about a half hour one day.
Yep. Well, and I, that's some of the conversation I definitely want to have too. We got to get back on the drag and drive conversation, but I do want to talk a little bit about PRI and working in a booth as compared to being on the floor and running around and stuff like that. So let's talk history real quick, because obviously you are a multi-time drag and drive competitor. You've been around this for a long time, but we actually met I think it's Sick Week. And then, of course, I talk to you all the time, but looks like your Midwest Drags 2021 average was a 10.032. Pretty impressive. Your Hot Rod Drag Week 2021 average is 10.035. So that's pretty amazing. You went pro DYO with Sick Week. Now that means you can run fast. You're faster than 10.0, right?
Right. 999 and faster.
Gotcha. Okay. So
We
that
didn't
makes
have to
sense.
slow
So
it down, we'd pick it up.
yep. And then you were so competitive in that class. What your slowest pass that you turned in was a 9.112, or 9.912, and then 9.935 with a 9.934 and 9.925 in the middle of those. Your consistency is amazing to me.
Well, just old bracket racer. That's what we've done, Joe and I, and we try to pay attention to details. We have a few things on the car that we can change to change hundreds. We can change 400s, 900s. We can pick up almost 2/10 if we want to.
Wow, that's
It's
awesome.
a matter of changing things.
Yeah. So you have a wide tuning window then for sure.
Yes.
And then, so we talked about Sick Week, and then another event for 2023 you've got planned?
Be doing 6 Summer.
Yes, man. That's going to be, I'm really sad I'm going to miss 6 Summer. I'm going to be doing the autocross week that week as an announcer. Yeah, it is too bad because I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Those tracks are obviously fast all the time, and there's going to be a lot of our race car friends that are going to be there. So
I've raced at Cordova. I've raced at Great Lakes Dragway when I raced Top Dragster. So nice.
That's awesome. Yeah, for sure. Well, I see Eric is here. He's in from dinner. He's actually on vacation, but is coming in to help. So I'm going to bring him in, and then because I know he has a few questions, like I said earlier. Here we go. So I've got Jay Blanchard saying that you're a little quiet compared to me. Hold on just a second. Let's see if this helps.
I'm always quiet. I don't make a lot of noise.
Yeah. You're a quiet guy.
Yeah.
How about that? Okay, let's give some folks something to talk about here, and let's bring Eric in and go over some of the questions he has about drag and drive, and then we'll obviously work into the PRI stuff.
Okay.
Howdy, bud.
Eric.
Hey, what's happening?
Just having fun.
Yeah, I'm on my cell phone. I'm in the hotel. My laptop won't allow my camera or headset to connect. So.
Oh, nice.
There you go. Well, yeah,
right.
It's all a work in progress. Well, let's get into it. We talked a little bit about Bill's history and stuff like that. I don't remember if I sent you that stuff, Eric, but I know you have a few questions pertaining to drag and drive racing and car building and things like that. So if you wanted to get into some of those.
Yeah, sure. So first question was, when was your first drag and drive?
Well, it was supposed to be Midwest Drags in 2020. I bought the car on New Year's Eve of 19 and built it ready for Midwest Drags. And well, we know what happened in 20. So
right.
Midwest Drags was canceled. I was registered for Drag Week. That was canceled. And then Byron Dragway popped up with Drag Weekend 500. And my buddy Joe couldn't make it, so my son went, and we went and had done that event. Same thing, SME, qualified number one for the 3-day deal. I think our average was 10.03 something for the first 3 days, or the 3-day race. And that was the first one of these we'd ever done. And
that's awesome.
I goofed up the first round because it was a bracket race, and gave the stripe back to the other guy. I learned a lot about turbos that day because that guy had a lot of top end. I didn't think he was coming, and he did. But we had a blast. My son and I did it. So then we went from there, and then would have been Midwest Drags, and 21 would have been the next one.
Okay. So Byron's actually my hometown track. I'm in Illinois typically. Right now I'm sitting in a hotel in Michigan, but yeah, so Byron's our hometown track, so I'm there quite often.
Great place.
So what made you decide to do your first drag and drive? What was it that got your attention and got you to go ahead and sign up and do that first one?
Well, I've always been a bracket racer. Did a lot of traveling racing, local racing, but watching Drag Week for all the years, I would have it on my computer and watch it while I'm at work, and it just intrigued me. I wanted to do it because all the traveling racing we do, we load our car in the trailer, go race for a weekend, then trailer it home. So I thought it'd be kind of cool, and I'm probably not smart enough to just walk away from that stuff. I just do it anyway. So told my buddy Joe, hey, I want to do this. And he jumped in with both feet, and here we are.
Now,
Awesome.
has Joe been with you each event?
All except there's two he didn't make it. The first one, the Drag Weekend 500, he couldn't go. He had a family obligation. And then Sick Week back in February, he had something going on. He couldn't come. So my buddy Jeff had never been to anything like this ever. And he would go to Norwalk and watch racing, but never had raced, and definitely not a drag and drive.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like, I'm not coming back.
No, he wants to come back, but
Oh yeah, I bet.
he's got to, break Joe's leg or something to make that happen. So
Joe doesn't have any family obligations going on now. He's like, no, whatever it is, y'all can work around it. Daddy ain't gonna be home.
yeah, he's excited to go to Sick Week, obviously, because he couldn't go last year. We're signed up for Sick Summer. He may have to do a little work from the road from his laptop and phone, but we'll get it done.
Right. And that's the benefit of all of this remote work is everybody's figured out that, hey, it's not too bad. I can actually answer the phone or use it as a hotspot and answer some emails.
It's not that loud inside the car to talk on the phone. I mean,
right.
So Sick Summer is actually right in my neck of the woods. So I definitely plan on trying to hit each track and following everybody along and maybe do some pictures and videos and just really just hang out with everybody.
Look forward to it.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to deploy Eric as content creation that week. I think it's going to,
nice.
He'll have obviously some stuff on his channel, but yeah, we're going to have to figure out some way because it can't be in two places at once. I don't know. Maybe he can be the Michael Narks clone. We'll get him out there, and the beard's coming in nice. So like it's all the same, right?
It'd be awesome.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot of fun.
So I know you said you got the car, you said 2019. Did you build that car specifically for drag and drive?
Yes. I bought it. It had a 351 Cleveland and a 5-speed in it, and all that's gone. Put a 9-inch Ford in it, subframe connectors, put a chrome molly cage. Started out I bought a 501-inch big block Ford from a guy, used motor, and it was great. It worked fine. But I wanted to go to EFI because my goal was to end up with turbos on a Godzilla. So I wanted to learn EFI on naturally aspirated, so I wasn't trying to learn boost and EFI all at once.
Right.
But the EFI has been a blast. Rick Trunkett over at Big 3 Racing tuned it, did a great job. Is always willing to help. But the car is purpose built front to back for drag.
Very cool. Very cool. So when building a car for drag and drive, what do you think is the one thing that people either overlook or the one thing that people shouldn't cheap out on when building something for drag and drive? So for example, is it like fuel pumps? Is it the cooling system? What do you think is the one thing that somebody should really focus on when building something for drag and drive?
I think it's definitely cooling, and it's multiple stages. Obviously, radiator for the engine, transmission, coolers. We've got a big Durrell cooler with a big fan on it mounted in the back of the car. Does a great job cooling. And then also, we insulated the floor and carpet to kind of keep us cooler. We don't have air conditioning, but we don't have the exhaust temperature coming through the metal floor.
Right.
A lot of guys don't have carpet, and I think that's a mistake.
Yeah.
Those are probably the biggest things. And then after that, it's good components. A good fuel pump, good water pumps, good brakes, everything that you can do to make it better, make it last.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of one of the big things with me building a Fox body right now is I know my cooling system is lacking. So when Mike starts talking about bringing it on a drag and drive, that's the one thing that does worry me is I need to upgrade that because I have a very small radiator between two big turbos and they get they get warm real quick.
Yeah, you're adding heat to the radiator from the turbos.
Yep. I do have a rear mount radiator. I don't have it hooked up yet. That's a whole nother project. I have the radiator, but getting it put in the car and getting it plumbed to the back is something that it's probably going to end up happening sooner than later.
Yeah, big radiator and big fans. We actually just added a big Durrell shroud and dual fans on our car. They had one fan and it did fine. But in Florida on the highway, we've seen some warm temperatures, and on drag week last year, in 21, coming through Chicago at rush hour, it got warm, but it got like 208, which is not hot by any means, but it's hotter than I want it.
Yeah.
So just adding more, just trying to make it better.
Yeah, I think my car just going to the hardware store and back was like 230, and I was like, yeah, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, the LS likes warm temps, but that's still definitely warmer than what I was comfortable with.
Yeah, that's hard on everything. The engine oil gets hot, and once it's hot, it's hard to cool it back down. So definitely want to cool that more.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
So let me ask you this. Yeah, sorry. So oil cooling for these long drives, how important is that? Because when you were saying that in the latent heat that comes from hot oil, hot engine, all that kind of stuff, and him having two turbos, I don't know, just is having a bigger oil cooler better for that?
For a turbo car, I would think it'd make more sense. I don't have turbos, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But you're getting heat from the turbos in the oil, so you're heating it up even more than we do. I saw higher engine temperatures in Florida because we had a diaper on the car, so we could run 999 or faster. We'd have a blanket. That brought the engine temperatures up a little bit. Not uncontrollable, but it was definitely different.
Yeah.
And if you've got a twin turbo LS, I think should definitely be faster than 999. So you've got a diaper or a belly pan or something.
Yeah.
So it might not hurt to have an oil cooler in that situation.
Yeah, I was just thinking somebody was talking, I think it was John from Delta PAG when he was on, was about everything being cool, but not too cold. So you got to figure out how to, I guess, work that out. But I do want to say, Scott had a great point here. Things you can buy off the shelf if it fails is always a good idea for, any kind of pump or generally.
I agree.
Yeah, fuel pump, water pumps, all that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, unfortunately, how my engine is in the car and radiator, I had to run a Ameri electric pump. I couldn't fit a stock pump because I bought a nice new aluminum Ford pump and it doesn't fit. So I had to go electric. But those are the things. There's a few parts on the shelf that this is what we're going to do. And then you get it and it's like, oh, that doesn't fit. So then you punt.
Yep.
But at that point, you try to buy the best parts you can. So, a Ameri water pump was a lot of money. I could have bought a much cheaper electric pump, but you should probably buy two of those because you're going to need it on the road.
Yeah.
Right.
That's one thing about what we're doing with all of this is the hard part is you have you're literally putting your performance engine to the test with the drag and drive. There's nothing harder than driving an engine that's made to run 4,500 plus RPM. That's the whole mentality design of the engine. And now we're kind of puttering along at 2,800, 2,500 RPMs, trying to keep temps down and keep my 65 or 70 mile an hour speed.
Yeah, we're running about 60 miles an hour, 65. and we're 2,800.
Yeah.
We can run 70, but now we're 3,100, and I don't want to do that for a long period of time.
For 6 hours.
Yeah, that's not good.
Right. Now, what trans do you have in the car again? You said it, but I forgot.
It's a Power Glide.
Power Glide with a gear vendor setup?
With the gear vendors.
Yeah.
Actually tried a 4R70W overdrive with a lockup converter. That's what I built the car with originally. On paper, it's perfect. It didn't last. And we're weeks away from Midwest Drags in 20.
Mm-hmm.
So I called my buddy Marco up and ordered a Power Glide, and called Rick up and ordered a gear vendors. And the ironic thing or crazy thing is Joe goes to Marco's to pick up the transmission. The gear vendors getting delivered the same day, and I get an email that Drag Week's canceled.
Oh, man.
On the same day.
Yeah.
But
you're like, yay, no.
Yeah, it was the highest and the lowest of the day. So, but it's worked. I change oil in the gear vendor after every event. Rick says, just sample the oil, keep a little sample in jars and see if it changes color over time. And then he asked me, he goes, are you using it on the track? I'm like, no, just on the road. He goes, oh, you're never going to break it. Like,
right.
Because we change oil in it and trans oil, and it's been all good.
And then, I mean, you're talking about what, 3 quarts maybe in the gear vendor setup, maybe?
Oh, it's like 27 ounces or something.
Yeah, so
it doesn't hold anything.
Barely one. I think when they did Bryant Goldstones at Drag Week, I mean, a few of the things that make the gear vendor make sense to me is one, like especially for guys at that power level.
Yeah,
it's a safety mechanism. It's one spot. So like Bryant shook the tires real hard and broke his, or I think his was maybe broken from the accident. And so he was out trying to make passes and it wasn't working. And so it was an easy way. The trans was perfect. They just swapped gear vendor units and it was good to go.
Oh, it's real easy. Pull the drive shaft.
Yep.
There's 6 or 8 bolts around it. Pull it out, unplug a couple wires. It's really simple.
Yeah, it was really a neat setup. I would love to have a need for something that needs a gear vendor one day.
It is a nice piece. It works very well.
Yep.
I'm glad to have it.
That's awesome. And then Scott here, I think we'll have to have him on here pretty soon. Probably not tonight, but definitely in the near future, early January. 4L80, 325 gears at less than 2,000 RPM at 70 miles an hour. Yeah. That's pretty amazing.
Scott kills me. He's a great guy, and he'll post a picture or a video or something going down the road. I'm like, I don't even want to talk to you.
Yeah. Him and I were back and forth about his car and an article I did earlier this year. And I mean, the car got 24 miles a gallon, I think he said, on Drag Week or Midwest Drags.
I remember that.
Yeah, and just cruises, run 7-second quarter-mile passes. I mean, it's absolutely
10.
insane. Yeah. Well, see, here's the thing. That's why, earlier you were talking about EFI and you were talking about boost and things like that. That's why boost is so great. Make all the power and you don't have to have all the cam and cubic inches.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Yep. So what is the ultimate goal for the FUB?
The ultimate goal would be a Godzilla with twin turbos.
Nice.
The cylinder heads aren't ready for it, from what I understand from the main guy on Godzilla. So I'm just sitting back watching.
There you go. And then run like a 750 class, 850 class?
Run 850 class because I don't want to put a funny car cage in a street car.
There you go.
If you do, you've got to use a containment seat to where your head can't hit the funny car cage.
Yeah, and that makes it harder for street stuff.
If somebody runs into you and your head pops off the side of the funny car cage, you're dead.
Yep.
It's bad.
Brian Acton has a great question here. Well, let's give him the PC version and then the real version.
Fairmont under beautification. That's the PG. Can I say the real one?
Yeah, sure.
Fucking ugly bastard. Just look at it.
Yep. Dude, that car looks good. When you talk, it's like Survivor paint. I mean, I love it.
Well, It is definitely Survivor. It's surviving.
That's right. That's right.
Well, I tell everybody I want to paint it, and I get death threats. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, we won't paint it.
It looks so good with the wheels on it and stuff like that. And I know Eric is tired of hearing me say this because I said it every 2 hours at PRI, but I feel like an 850 car is the primo street car. That I love that class. That's a car you can climb in and go get ice cream. You can throw the keys to anybody and they generally won't tear it up. You know what I mean? It's a car that can still cruise around a little bit. A car faster than that becomes a little more questionable.
Sure. I had a guy come up to us at Drag Week in 21 on the last day, and we were number one for the week, and he goes, "Man, you can't paint FUB." That's my girlfriend, by the way.
Well, then that says it all. You can't do it.
Yeah, this guy comes up and says, "Man, the 850 guys are glad you're not in the 850 class." I said, "Next year."
Yep.
Really? Like, maybe.
That'd be awesome.
Haven't pulled that trigger.
Now, why not go with like a twin turbo setup on the current engine?
Well, big block Ford. The block I have is they call it a D9 block. It's a two bolt main with a girdle. They say it's good for 800 horsepower. And we're already just a touch over that.
Yeah.
So thinking twin turbos were probably going to blow the crank out of the bottom of
it. Right. The old 302 setup where it's like, oh yeah, 501 horsepower. It'll split down the middle.
Right down the middle. And I don't like blowing stuff up. I've done a lot of that over my lifetime, so don't want to do that. A performance Ford block, trying to buy a good 4-bolt block. Maybe another year they might be available.
Yeah.
So just they're not out there. If you find something, it's used. And
at the same time, why would you do that when the Godzilla, is brand new technology?
Yeah, I could buy a Godzilla and start with that.
Yeah.
For the price of a block.
Yeah, for sure. Jeff Kirchig is building a Godzilla setup. He's doing a Pro Charger on his, but that's the same reason. He's like, I could have built a big block Ford, but why? He's like, it's so expensive. So that's pretty awesome. Well, let's pivot a little bit. Let's talk about PRI because, I want to know how long you've been going. Just all the stuff. We want to learn from you. I want to know what we did wrong, kind of what we're going to do right for 2023 because we're going back for sure. But we definitely want to get your side of things because you were in a booth, obviously, the whole weekend with American race cars and just the people, I'm sure nonstop talking and brain picking and things like that. So what's it like to be in a booth all weekend compared to us guys that were out running around walking 30,000 steps?
Well, it's very cool. We brought some pretty awesome stuff to the show this year, all new stuff, and people were excited about it. So to see the look on people's faces when you showed them how it worked or what it was, or the questions they had, it was a great show for American race cars. It was unreal. We've done it before, and it had a good show. Everybody asks, "How was your show?" Every year, it's a good show. Mm-hmm. This year was a great show. We blew people out of the water, and the phone won't quit ringing. So, which is a great problem. But
yeah,
being in a booth and watching the people and seeing what they're doing. I love to watch people, anyways. It's interesting. So I've walked the show before and just have gone to walk it. Mm-hmm. And it's good to stay in one spot for a while and be able to see people and talk to them.
And actually be able to sit down for a minute.
About a minute, yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. So how many people do you think came through the booth and you guys talked to?
Oh, I have no idea.
It was probably thousands.
We got one of the guys I work with, Jason, he and I rode over Thursday. We got there about 1:00. We worked the booth from there to close at 5, and it was nonstop.
That's
people
great.
All day, the rest of the day. Friday was just packed. Normally Thursday's a slower day because people are coming in. Friday is busy and Saturday is extremely busy. You are nonstop talking all day. And Saturday kind of started out that way, but tapered off. And we just kind of relaxed part of the day. There's nothing going on. It was weird.
That is weird. I would think that Saturday would have been crazy because, but this year they were saying that the entry, like people paying to get in, would maybe kind of curtail that a little bit. It would not make as many people come.
They did that, and on Friday, I think it was busier than any Saturday ever had been.
Wow.
And definitely busier than any Friday. It's normally Saturday is your busy day.
Yeah.
But Thursday and Friday both, it was a good audience.
That's
it was
great.
People that should be there and had questions. Saturday seemed to be they either let people in or people said, "Oh, screw it, I'll spend the $40."
Right. Like, oh, wow, that's cool. And they just like keep walking, or they, but people that really have questions. I feel like there was a lot of really good conversations that were happening. Obviously walk into several and people be gathered up talking about really good stuff across the whole show.
Yeah. I got out one time on Saturday for half hour, went over and talked to Tom at Holly FI, talked to him for a few minutes and stopped by the Mosier booth, talked to those guys, and that was about it. Went back to the booth.
That's awesome. So what's your biggest tip for folks that are going to be working a booth for 2023?
Biggest tip. Pay attention to your clientele. What are you bringing? What are you trying to present? What are you trying to sell? Yeah. And make sure it's exciting. Don't bring something that you already have. I mean, we have to have those things, but try to have something that sparks interest.
Try and do something that's different and fun and new.
Yeah, we brought 3 different things this year, which was a huge undertaking for the shop, but the guys pulled it off.
That's cool.
It was an amazing show. But I think I look at the guys. There was guys by us that just had like air conditioning parts set up. It's like they're trade show guys. They go to every trade show and they set up the same 50 parts on that bench, box them up and leave and go to the next one. There was people that stopped, but there wasn't the traffic that we had.
Yeah.
I think you need something exciting, something to grab their attention.
Yeah. And, I think for a lot of times, like guys like Eric, especially, I mean, they're building cars all year long. So this is really an opportunity to see the newest, freshest, what part is coming that I didn't even know I needed, or what is the new process to do something with. I mean, that's what I got out of PRI there was so much just really fun stuff that's coming or is just available now,
There's stuff that's out there that we don't even know. And, we find that there.
Yeah.
But a lot of guys they're set in their ways. We're going to do it this way. It doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah. So, we have Calvin and Andrew Nelson on next, and they were there specifically to figure out a piston issue that they're going to explain here in a few minutes. So it's like, I think that PRI gives a really good opportunity to do that. You could really go in with some really technical questions, and a lot of the folks working there aren't just salespeople. Right.
They know their product.
Yeah.
And it's a great way to get conversations going and make contacts.
Yeah.
So 2 months from now, you call somebody up going, "Hey, I talked to you at PRI, blah, blah, blah." And, "Oh yeah. Okay." And they can help you. Right. I think that's a great thing to have.
Yep. And then us talking about that made me think of, you sent me a picture the other day of some wiring that you were doing on a race car. I mean, I'm really blown away at the harness availability that you can purchase now, right? From anywhere, but there's very few spots that we found, because that's what we're leaning into with Narcoleptic is, detailed wiring like that, like what you were doing in this picture, which was crazy. And like how, that makes a build so much easier, especially when you're on the side of the road, for these drag and drive guys. Wiring is the biggest probably one of the biggest nightmares for people. But at the same time, you've got to have it sorted. People will look at that. You pop the hood on my old truck and they're like, oh my God, how do you even know where this stuff is? Well, I know where it is because I built it, right? But if somebody else is having to help me figure out what yellow that's spliced into purple that goes under the dash that then is spliced into a blue wire, you know what I mean? Like, you can't have that kind of stuff in a real car that's going to be on the drag and drive road.
I've seen cars that are high 7-second cars on drag week. It was a Fox body. I think it was a Fox body. Open the door, passenger door, and on the X bar they had the Dominator mounted, and all the wiring coming off of it. None of it was loomed. It wasn't zip tied. It was like you took all the wire you have in your garage and just threw it inside this car.
They bought two of the rolls from O'Reilly's and went in there and just screwed them babies to it and let's go.
Yeah, I'm looking at that car and Joe walks up. He goes, "That's making you sick, isn't it?" Yeah, I need to walk away.
Yeah, you're over there like, yeah, you're like, just bring it to the hotel tonight. I'll fix some of this.
Yeah.
I think there was an old diesel powered truck at Byron last year, and I went up and looked inside of it, and it was just spaghetti. I was like, I was almost concerned that his feet were going to get tangled in the wires. There was so much loose wires dangling. It was crazy.
It's
awesome.
Amazing what people get away with.
Yeah.
Wire is hooked from A to B and it works, but the failure rate's got to be amazing.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, as we wind down here, let's talk about some upcoming stuff. Obviously we talked about upgrades and stuff to the car. Is Joe building a car? Is he going to have a car coming soon? You guys or are y'all the FUB team?
We're the FUB team. We play
That's
with
awesome.
FUB, and when we're not doing that, we go ride motorcycles.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, what else do we need to talk about, man? I feel like we've gone through my stuff. Obviously, you're here for your drag and drive experience, and then and history. And then what do you want to tell some folks that are at home thinking about this? And like Eric's never even been on one. And how do we get him on one?
If you think you want to do it, go to when the circus comes to town. If it shows up at Byron, go for the day and watch. Talk to the people.
I've done that the last 2 years for Drag Week. I'm there every year, but it's only Byron. Like, I haven't traveled to Great Lakes or some of the other tracks with them. I think that's my next step. Is it's don't just go to my local track. It's follow them. Get in. Get in one of my cars and follow along and see how my car handles and see what issues they have and where I can look at things on my build to make sure that I've covered that basis so I don't run into that particular issue.
And that's a great idea. And pay attention to what they're doing, what other people are doing, what other people are having failures with. The amazing thing with a drag and drive is you're going down the road and you see a competitor on the side of the road, you start slowing down, you see a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Thumbs up, keep going. Thumbs down, pull over. They need help.
Yep.
We've done that. When we broke the cylinder head on FUB, we're pulled across a farmer's driveway going to his barn. It's pouring rain. It's muddy. I don't know how many people stopped.
Yeah.
We're in the car in the rain. We're just trying to stay dry till help showed up because we had to tow the car. We were done.
Yeah.
But people stopped. We actually had somebody blow by us, go down probably 500 or 600 feet, spin around, come back. Like, no, we're good, man. We're good. Sorry.
That's awesome.
It's a great family. You meet Brian Havlick and Scott Kleppinger and Tony. All the guys are just, Tony McDowell just lost his name. I was thinking of another Tony that we raced against in Midwest Drags.
That's
Tony
funny.
McFall or something. But you enter there, you don't know anybody, and by the end of first day, you got all these new friends, and Brian Acton and Jay Blanchard. We message each other all the time on Facebook, comparing cup holders.
Right. Yeah. Cup holders are a mainstay for all of Drag and Drive. I don't know how people live without them, man.
It was one of those things. I was going to put one in right away and didn't when we built the car. And I ended up building a stand in front of the shifter and put the trans brake button on it. And that just kind of limited my space. And then we'd I took my water bottle between the seat and the tunnel, and it would work okay. Or flop it in the back floor and then reach back there fishing around trying to find it. But that was one of the things. We had a punch list that we had to do. We had to get new seat belts, new window net that expired. Wanted to do cup holders, move the trans brake button, do the radiator. It's done. The car's ready to go. We've got a fuel injector O-ring leaking. I got to pull that apart, put a new O-ring on it, and I want to run the valves. Just make sure they're good because it is a big mechanical cam.
That's awesome.
Roller. But it's ready to go in the box and head to Florida.
That's perfect. So I'll ask this, and I see Calvin and Andrew are in the backstage there. I kind of want to overlap our conversations for a second. Now that the car is done, I feel like this is probably the golden time to do stuff because the car has proven itself. It's ready to go. Those are those little things. So for all the people that are absolutely thrashing to get their car done right before the event, and then they build a completely other car for the next year's event, maybe you think about keeping that car for two seasons so you can do like the cup holders, and you can do a different bar mount for your phone that you thought about. What do you think about that?
Definitely, because you can perfect that car. We built it and went and tested it and changed a few things. And other than engine work, we haven't changed a lot from one end to the other. It's been very, very good and very dependable. We put decent brakes on it, 9-inch rear, good front and rear suspension, shocks, struts, and we really haven't had to mess with that stuff.
That's awesome.
You can do the cup holders and the phone mounts and try to make the thing better.
All the little stuff. You can add 75 crank horsepower to something, and then work on your testing. Well, hang tight with us just a second. I'm going to add them on, and we'll all kind of talk a little bit about Midwest drags and things like that. All right, guys, how are y'all this evening?
How's it going?
Hey guys,
It's going great. So we're definitely going to talk about this Volvo in behind you guys because it is a great story. I love it. If you guys don't follow Nivlak57 on all the social channels, you need to. But you guys were both on Midwest Drags. Of course, I was announcing, so it wasn't anything special for my side. But both of you guys were racing. Why don't you let me ask you this. Is 2 passes for 4 days harder than 1 pass for 5 days?
For sure. That definitely adds some complexity to the whole thing. For us, we tried to hot lap the cars and get out of there as fast as possible. But that's definitely hard on stuff. So it's a totally different dynamic. We're actually looking forward to Sick Week, which we plan to participate in this year. For that reason, because there's only 1 pass that you have to get per day.
Doing drag week, 1 pass, the sheer volume of cars and the concern that if you don't get a good pass in, having to get back in line if you're trying to get out early is a concern. Midwest was a smaller event, a smaller community, but had a dynamic about it that was very enjoyable. And if it were to have 350, 400 cars and you had to make a second pass, it would definitely cause some heartburn. But there's a lot of neat aspects about both events, and I like both events. I could have done without the second pass, but after it was all over, I was glad we got the extra, had to make the second pass. But, having to do it live is a little bit of heartburn. But after you get done with it and complete it and you get to the end of the week, it's like, I'm glad that happened.
Yeah.
I agree with that. The 2 runs for Midwest Drags is definitely challenging, but also it makes you work a little harder because you gotta have your stuff good.
Yep.
So you can have a tight package for the week. Definitely harder.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Bill, I want to say thank you for coming on. You're definitely going to be a repeat guest because there's so much knowledge in your brain that I want to get out, and we got to be able to tell these people. So I want to say thanks. Will you tell folks where they could? I mean, do you have an Instagram? Do you have some stuff we can follow? We can watch some of the build process.
I have an Instagram. I don't do anything with it. Probably my Facebook. Just follow me, and I post pictures there.
Awesome.
I'm not a big tech guy of doing all that stuff. I was so nervous I was going to screw this up.
It's been great, man. What are you talking about?
Yeah, we've been listening the whole time. You did good.
Thank you. It's fun to do this stuff, and I have done cars my entire life, all my career, and just like playing with them. So it's hard to get me to shut up about it.
That's awesome. Well,
it's hard not to have a good time when you're with 350 of your best friends.
This is very true.
That's right. That's right. Race car friends, man. I'm telling you. Well, Bill, we'll catch up with you at Sick Week, which is, I mean, guys, we're like 6 weeks, 8 weeks away?
Something like that.
From 6
Not
weeks.
long.
Not long. I'm excited. I haven't even bought my plane ticket yet. And then I still don't even know who I'm riding with. So I may be bumming some rides or I may be sitting in Joe's lap. I don't know.
That's up to you and Joe.
All right, Bill. Thanks a bunch, man. We'll see you soon.
Thanks.
Hey, it was nice meeting you. I will see you at Sick Summer then.
Sounds good.
All right, guys. Well, what do we even want to start with? You guys are, some of my favorite people in, of course, drag and drive, but then also in car building. You guys have built some really fun stuff. The car behind you has an amazing story and a really fun build process to watch. But let's start with your drag and drive history. You guys have competed for a while. I know in Drag Week, and then obviously we saw you on Midwest Drags this year with 2 cars. Mom and Dad drove the LS Swap Ford truck, and then you were in the Fairmont wagon. So let's maybe back up a little bit, kind of introduce yourself. Tell folks, obviously, some of the cars, just a quick recap of the cars you guys have built, because there's a lot. And then kind of your drag and drive history.
It would be the rest of the night just talking about all the cars we built. We've probably done order of magnitude, probably 150 builds over the years. Say hi to Mom. Mom's in.
Hi.
Yep. Hello. And but for drag and drive cars, right from the very beginning of Drag Week, I had an interest in going. And started to get serious about it in 2007 and was going to try and make it to the 2008 event. And a series of difficult times, fell on us, and it ultimately it didn't allow us to do it. It involved health issues with my son, and obviously anybody who's been through those types of situations, family just trumps all other issues. And it's amazing that through the course of time, as we dealt with that, unfortunately, I developed some of my own health issues and ended up having to get emergency surgery. And as soon as I opened my eyes, and this was 2011, I basically told Paula, I said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. We're going. And the car that I had drug out of the barn to get out of the way to build a car as a family project in 2008 was very successful. We had another successful year building another car in 2009, and they were products of the situation we were going through with our family and trying to do things at the Grassroots Motorsports Challenge. That event afforded us the opportunity to be competitive because it's a budget limited race. But when 2011 came along and I got sick and I got out, it was just, that's it, we're going. And fortunately for me, I have a love for gassers, and it was the first year that Drag Week had gassers. So Paula and I jumped in a 1951 Henry J.
It's the car on the.
Yes.
And we had zero testing on it. As a matter of fact, I drove it 9 miles, parked it in the trailer, and we went to Topeka, Kansas.
That's great.
So it's unbelievable the stories that come out of Drag Week. Not just surviving, but getting there. We were outside of Topeka heading for the racetrack, and we picked up a vibration in the trailer. And I looked at Paula. I said, dang it, we're getting a flat. And I saw the sign for the drag strip. I said, that's it. I'm just rolling in there. So we about 5 miles, and so we pull in, and I jump out of the truck, and I walk around the trailer, and there's no flat tires. I'm like, what was that? And so we went about our business, and the first time that the car ran through the gears was at the drag strip. I ran 11:46 at 119 miles an hour, and it's like, all right, we're ready to drive 1,000 miles.
That's awesome.
As we're loading up the car to take it into impound, one of the guys parked next to us is looking at the trailer, and he says, hey, all your lug nuts except for one are missing on your back right tire on your trailer.
Holy jeez.
I'm like, oh my word, you got to be kidding. So I go over there, I look, sure enough, he's right. So we run the trailer into impound. Paula jumps in the truck. She drives down to O'Reilly's, picks up all the lug nuts, all the lugs that we needed, unloading all the parts that we had, because when we went out there, we only had a 20-foot trailer. Mm-hmm. Well, if you know a Henry J's, they're 12 feet long plus a bumper. So, we had the trailer standing on end in the trailer. So we unload everything, put all the tools into the trailer, and the next morning we come out of impound, knowing that the lugs are sitting in the toolbox in the trailer. We got to fix it when we get back. We take off, and part of your conversation earlier was about, you've got to be prepared for the heat. Well, it was 104 degrees 3 of the 5 days. And Henry J, fender well headers, we had so much heat in the car that it heated up the roll cage so hot, I ended up with second-degree burns up and down my left leg. Every time I touched the cage, I was burning myself. But we made it through the first day, got to Great Bend, which was the second day, and then we had to drive all the way to Amarillo, Texas. And that was 436 miles, and longest leg I think they've ever had on any drag week. And we got done there, and by then, the noise has gotten to you, the heat's gotten to you. It's you really know that you're invested on the second day. The first day, you can still 200 miles away, you can still see your trailer in the rearview mirror. But when you head to the second track, that's what separates the mice and men.
Yes.
You are now committed, because you're now 400, 500, 600 miles away from your toolbox. And any of us that love their tools and love the security of having lots of stuff in their trailer, they'll recognize that when you're driving that far away from your security blanket, i.e. your toolbox, it's tough. And we made it all the way down there, and it was interesting to see all the different strategies that were taking place, because that long of a trip, and we did it with 410 gears and no overdrive.
Oh my gosh.
104 degrees, and it was insane. But one of the differences between Midwest and Drag Week, and I don't want to say that I favor one or the other. They're very different, and each one has its own uniqueness that makes it special. With Drag Week, they picked the course and the effort that they put into putting you on roads and taking you to different scenes or different attractions is so incredible. They put you on Route 66 that year. We drove through Dodge City. We actually had to sit at a railroad crossing watching tumbleweeds roll past us. And you tell people that that's real. You know, my entire life, I grew up in the Northeast and had never traveled. That was as far west as I had ever gone. A tumbleweed was something I saw in a Western movie.
Right.
And here we are in Dodge City waiting for him to go by in a 1951 Henry Jag.
with huge fender headers and everything. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And loud. Just loud. So we get all the way to Amarillo, and now the exhaustion's setting in. So it's that noise that you think you hear is now sounding like a resounding gong. So I'm going over my valve train. I'm checking everything under the sun because I'm just like, I know this thing's about to fall apart. But if you saw the Hot Rod Magazine coverage of the event, our cars parked right out there in front of the group shot, and you know, Hot Rod did such a great job of representing the event, as they were the only ones that were doing the drag and drive back then. So the amount of energy they put into the articles made it that much more special. And, you know, you beat your chest saying, I was in Hot Rod. But we get out of Amarillo, we drive through the desert, we run out of gas. And we only had an 8-gallon cell in the thing with 410 gears. So we always had 10 gallons of fuel with us. And, you know, one of our 200 times that we ran out of gas, we're throwing fuel in the back of the thing. And the farmer who owned the area pulls up to us on the wrong side of the road. And it startled me at first. And he's like, don't worry about that. Nobody drives up this road. I said, sir, I'm the first person to leave an event that just happened in Amarillo, Texas. You got 350 cars coming this way. Yeah. And he looks at me like I had 4 heads. And we kind of chuckled about it. But we get to talking about, you know, what he does, where he's from. And he said, well, if you need anything, that's my place over there. And I look over the back of the car and I look down the road and I was like, well, that's about a mile from here. And he says, oh, it's a little more than that. My driveway's a mile long and it's about a mile to my driveway. And I was like, wow, you got a big place. He's like, oh no, my place is pretty small. I'm like, what are you talking about? How big's your place? He's like, oh, it's about 2,500 acres. And I was like, that's small? He's like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Most people around here got about 9,000 acres.
Oh, my gosh. Well, welcome to Texas.
Yep. So at this point, you know, we're day 3 is over and we're in first place in class and we're headed towards Tucson or Tulsa. And we get into Oklahoma and the car dies. And it's about 9 o'clock at night. And one of the incredible things about the community is we are broken down on the side of a highway and we are hours to the next town where the hotels are. There were 10 people that hung out with us until we were able to get that thing fired up. And it turns out that one of the guys that knew the Hot Rod staff had offered his services to anybody who could get to their place. Well, it happened that we were very near their house. So we turned around and we went back to this guy's house and the tribe follows us there. And once they knew we were safe, they were like, well, what do you need? What do you need? And it's like, okay, we're safe. You got hours to go. You guys just go. We'll figure this out. So this elderly couple put us up in the middle of the night in Kingfisher, Oklahoma. And so we take showers, and they show us where we can sleep that night. And he invites me down to his man cave. And we go down there, and he's got pictures of him with Danny Thompson, and him and Mickey Thompson, and him and Mario Andretti, and him and,
Wow.
and you just start going through it. And I'm looking up on the wall all around his man cave, and I'm like, who are you? And he gets to tell me a little bit about himself. And after about an hour, he's like, you own the little yellow car. And I was like, yes, sir. And he's like, we met in North Carolina
That's awesome.
a little earlier this year. And I'm like, what do you mean? Well, his son turned out to be one of, I'm a huge fan of his son. He had the Jaguar that raced at the Hot Rod Top Speed Challenge. And we had attended that event multiple times, and I met Chuck. Here we end up at his house on a drag and drive, drag week 2011.
That's awesome.
So next morning we get up, we get the car running, we're headed to Tulsa. We think we've got it fixed. We have this thing, we're running over 100 miles an hour going through the flatlands, pulling a trailer, 1951 Henry J, 410 gears, this thing's screaming its lungs out, and we are just flat out rolling. And don't you know, we come up on the only hill that's in Oklahoma. It turned out to be an overpass, so it looked like a hill from a distance. And I let off the throttle, and coming the other way is a cop. Hits the brakes, his tail goes in the air, the lights come on. I looked at Paula, I was like, we're in a bind.
We're in trouble right here.
So I pull over, cop comes up behind us, and he looks at the car. He's like, nice car. I said, thank you. He said, fast car. I said, yes, sir. And I hand him my license and registration. He says, I'll be back in a minute. So he walks away, goes back to the car. And about 2 minutes later, he comes running up to the car, and he throws my license and registration in the car. He says, I've got an emergency call. Slow down. I said, yes, sir. He goes tearing off out of there. We turn the car around, and we've got it on the wood, heading out the other side of the wall.
That's awesome.
So we get to the middle of Bristow, Oklahoma, and we break down right in the middle of the highway. And we have now gotten to where we're about to be disqualified because you had to be in the lanes by, I think it was 2:45. And I called I forget her name. Oh, super sweet. She works with the staff. No, it was another woman. I called up, and their concern is, are we okay?
Yep.
Well, we know that we're not going to make it, so we agree. Okay, we're going to have to fold here, and we're in the middle of this highway intersection. So I unhitch the trailer and I push it out of the intersection like a wheelbarrow. And then Paula gets behind the steering wheel, and I'm pushing the car backwards across the highway, and we get it off the side of the road. We ended up shoving it into this barn behind a haystack to this guy who, when I introduced myself to him and I said what was going on, he just started shaking his head, and I'm thinking, oh, this is not good. He's like, I have broken down so many places in this country, I can't even count them all. Here he was a professional rodeo hand,
Oh, nice.
trailer, completely understood our situation, allowed us to put our stuff in behind his barn. So he runs us into Tulsa. We get a rent-a-car. We go all the way back to Topeka, and that was the last track for the last day, was to go to Tulsa, race there, go to Topeka, finish the event. So we knew the next day we were going to be able to get into our truck and trailer. Well, we got there early enough. We couldn't. Nobody was there, but we finally worked our way into the track, and we go into impound to get the truck and trailer ready to go, and realized that all our tools were sitting in the trailer behind the Henry J in the barn in Bristow, Oklahoma.
Yep. We've been there.
Yep, broken off.
So we go around to a whole bunch of pits, knocking on doors, and it's early. Nobody's up. We finally got enough tools that we were able to get the trailer up on a wooden ramp to get the back tire to drag so that we could get the whole hub off. Borrowed a punch the size of a nail set, beat all the lugs out, pounded all the new lugs in, put the tire on the trailer, loaded the rental car back into the trailer, drove all the way to Bristow, grabbed the car, and we made it to Cincinnati that night, and then made it the rest of the way in the next day.
Jeez.
But that was just our first time and our first event, but we were so hooked on how awesome the community was. It was very discouraging, very disappointing to fall out out of the middle of nowhere. But when we look back upon that event 11 years ago, it's one of the things that we share the most with people is how much fun we had. So we took our lessons learned from 2011, applied them to a new build for 2013. I saw a hand gesture.
Sorry, the camera had gotten out of focus.
Gotcha. Built a new car for 2013, which was our Studebaker gasser.
Oh, nice.
And we made it through day one. Had an ignition fire and decided to not even try and fix it. So 2014, we made it back out there, and we completed the entire event, and what incredible memories. And
it's
every
awesome.
Every year you go, you see all these people that you know, and from Red Light Ross to Glenn Hunter, and we go to all these other events and we see these folks. And I love inaugural events. I love bigger events. I love being able to participate. And when we had a chance to go to Midwest this past year, the smallness of it was actually a bigger attraction than the Drag Week event. We went to Drag Week 2019 and had a problem day one. And we, Calvin and I were there with the wagon for the first time. We looked at each other and said, we can drive away from our trailer, or we can drive 200 feet, put it in the trailer, and fix the problem at home. Yeah. And fortunately for that year, we were not 1,000 miles from home.
Yeah.
When we finished the event in 2014, we were exhausted. That was a long event. It was hot. Yep. Some of the roads were very bumpy, and it wore on the car. It wore on the bodies in the car. We got back to Oklahoma there, and I'm going back to 2014 here. We got to the awards banquet. Paula looks at me and says, I want to go home. Well, it just so happened that that's the year that they extended the race one extra day. So Friday got rained out, and they decided to have the entire event on Saturday. So now we're into this thing from Sunday, from registration the week before. Now we're into Saturday. Now we get into Saturday night, 10:30. She looks at me and says, I want to go home. 11 o'clock it ended. 11:10 we're in the truck. 22 hours, 40 minutes later, we're 1,240 miles from there, sitting in the driveway.
You are an animal, sir. You are an animal. And ma'am.
She's a taskmaster.
That's awesome.
you know, it's again, I just can't overstate living the experience. After you go through the nightmare, it's the greatest thing you ever did.
Yes.
And getting through it, you the whole time you're there, it's like, what on earth was I thinking?
Yep.
And after you're done, it's like, I can't wait to do this again.
Well, it's funny. That's exactly 100% true. So my brother and I were talking about that on our way to PRI, and we're talking about the struggles, and we're talking about the lack of sleep and all that kind of stuff. And we're like, man, but this is so much fun. And I just kept going, but why is it fun? Why do we enjoy this? Is it the camaraderie? Is it the lack of sleep that makes you crazy? Is it the 300 other people that are around you that are into the same kind of thing? And I think it's all of that, you know?
It is. And as I've described it to people, why do I want to go 200? I've gone 179 miles an hour, and all I think about is going 200. You know, it's more people have climbed Mount Everest than have gone 200 miles an hour.
Wow.
Okay, why do people climb Mount Everest? Why do we drag and drive?
Yeah.
Until you scratch what drives you, until you check it off the list, you can't get it. You can't explain it. People outside our community don't understand it. They think we're lunatics. If somebody were to tell me they were going to climb Mount Everest, I'd tell them they're bananas. But I'd 100% understand it, because when you make your first land speed run and you pull the chute out and you've listened to that engine wail, and there's nothing like listening to that for a long distance, and you throw the chute, it's like, oh my gosh, this is the most euphoric thing I've ever done. And completing a drag and drive, it's euphoric in the sense of accomplishment. And anybody who's done something that they have always wanted to do will get it. And you can't explain it to somebody who's sitting on a couch criticizing the world. You can maybe give it a hint to somebody who's done a few things, but unless it's big, you don't get it.
Yep, that's right. Well, let's pivot. Let's talk about this car and behind you guys, because y'all, I'm telling you, I'm really, really excited to get close to this thing. Let's tell the background story of it, because it's really a fun story, and then talk about what you've done to it since then. Now, a quick recap. You know, obviously, people can go to your channel and watch the full build, but you may back that up just a little bit.
Yeah, I
You
hope.
gotta back up.
I don't know if you can see it, but right
There, keep going.
here it says 1022 on the car, and that is the mark that they put on the car when it goes into the junkyard. And what that means is October of 2022, and that's when we purchased the car. We purchased the car October 11th of 2022, and we plan to have it ready February 11th, 2023. So that gives us almost exactly 4 months.
Yeah.
You know, I saw this car sitting in the junkyard. We were junking a Trailblazer, actually. And, you know, I saw the thing and I'm like, it looks like some old Ford or something. That thing's pretty cool. But I saw these frame rails in the front. And I was like, hang on a second. You know, that's not a Ford. And I kind of got to thinking about the thing, and you know, I really liked how this was laid out, and we crawled under the thing. It didn't have, you know, any rust, you know, any significant rust. And we left, and I couldn't stop thinking about it, and so I started doing some research on the thing. And these cars weigh 2,072 pounds from the factory.
Wow.
And I was like, well, we've been having all these transmission failures recently, unfortunately, not on the drag and drive stuff, but, and, you know, I just had the thought, you know, it was just like, don't beat the horse, unload the wagon. And so I was like, well, let's stop trying to make so much horsepower. Let's go with something that doesn't weigh so much, and, you know, go with that. and we got to talking about the build, and I started talking about it with my dad, and we decided to buy the thing, and we got to planning out the build, and it was like, okay, this thing's probably going to be 24 to 2,600 pounds with driver when it's done. I don't know how to make that slow. And, because we were talking about, let's just put an 850 cert cage in it, and let's just make it a cruiser. And I'm like, I don't know, like, if it weighs 2,200 pounds with driver, it only takes like 600 horsepower to go a 7. Like it may be 700 horsepower, but it gives you an idea of what I'm thinking here.
Yeah.
And so it's like, we need to put a real cage into this thing. So I don't know if you can see it very well, but it's got a 25.3 cert cage, good for a 650 in the quarter mile. Not that we plan to go 6s with the car, but who knows? And we're going to build the thing for Sick Week. Obviously, that's what we talked about before. But we want to participate in the Sick Week Freaks class.
Nice.
So that's for all the oddball guys. Basically, anything that's not a V8. And then also we're building it so that it could participate in the modified class in the other events, since they don't have the Freaks class.
Yeah.
So, I'm really happy with how the build's coming out, but we still got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, you got a lot of work to do in 6 weeks. So now it's gonna be the Vortec 4200, right?
Yep.
So for folks that don't know, I would say you're on the leading edge of those engines and the power level that you're at. I don't know of many other folks that have made any power level like that with that engine. And then, so we'll talk about that in just a second, but what trans and rear axle and tire and stuff like that's going to go in that car?
So for the transmission, we're going to stick with the Turbo 400 stuff. We were talking about a Power Glide just because it'll be light enough that you could consider that, but we think we're going to need the gear ratio, the first gear ratio, to get the thing to work right. So we'll probably go with a Turbo 400. Well, it's already set up for a Turbo 400. Yeah. We're going with a Turbo 400. We already welded bars and stuff in, so yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a Ford 9-inch rear. We'd love to do the overdrive stuff, but that's expensive, and so that's not really an option. Our plan is to just go a little slower. That's kind of how we handled Midwest. Was my station wagon's trans brake turbo 400, and we just went a little slower, and just pace yourself. Just take breaks and don't try to kill yourself. And from what I hear, Sick Week, it's not about the torture fest, kind of like Drag Week. It's all about torture.
Yeah, they're trying to pick out the best cars for sure at Drag Week.
Yep. So Ford 9-inch. We got that all done. 4-link rear suspension, so it's basically a back half car.
Yeah.
Its goal is to make it as light as physically possible. Within reason. There's going to be a few. We'll have cup holders.
It'll have cup holders.
Well, like we talked with Bill, cup holders are a mainstay of any drag and drive car. You got to one that's for hydration. You got to stay hydrated, but then two, it's just really cool to look in a fast car and see 2 cup holders with a Brahms cup or Sonic cup in it. Because that dude just went through the drive-through. So. You talk 600 or 700 horsepower. You guys have been well past that in the Vortec 4200. So do you want to give us a quick recap of kind of what the plan is for the build, maybe turbo sizing and things like that?
So we were originally thinking of going wild and, trying to go 7s with the thing. But as we've discussed, we're closing in on the end. So we're talking about just do a stock bottom end 4200 in it. and just push that as far as it'll go. I mean, 700 horsepower is a pretty good number for them.
Yeah.
You know, we should be able to get it to go 8s every day. That's the goal anyways. You know, even if it went a low 9 one day, we're probably just going to roll just because, I mean, if the guy with the Eagle Talon with the 4G63, you know, rear wheel drive swap, he shows up.
Yep.
Yeah, I think he might he might take the competition, so we can kind of just, you know, we're there for the party. So
that's for sure. That's for sure.
Yeah, we just partnered with a company out of Australia called Artec Performance, and they are developing turbo manifolds for the Vortec 4200.
Yes.
So we're going to run one of their turbo manifolds with and Precision Turbo also is working with us. They sent us a 7675 Gen 2 ball bearing turbo. So it's like the nicest turbo I've ever seen.
That's what I was going to say. That's nicer than a lot of the stuff you work with generally.
Yeah. So that's going to go on this one, and we're actually taking 2 cars to the event. My station wagon is going to be the other one, and we're totally reworking that as well. So you know, we're
two builds.
not really making it easy for us.
Well, and you guys have real jobs. I mean, you know, you're YouTube famous, but you're not YouTube famous money yet. You know what I mean? So we certainly appreciate that. Well, let's talk, you know, obviously we talked about the first year you went. Let's talk about some struggles that you've got coming up. The one thing I think I enjoyed about Midwest Drags was seeing the whole family. You know, Andrew and Paula rode in the F-150, or is that an F-100? I guess F-100 in that year. Yep. Most of the week, and then you and Calvin and what is his buddies? Hobbs, yes. Cruise most of the week in the wagon, or all week in the wagon. It was really fun to see you guys out and about and doing that stuff. What are some events that you've done in the past that are similar to Drag and Drive? You know, you talked about grassroots motorsports and things like that. I mean, has there been some true street type stuff that you've done?
No. Well, the local event.
Yeah, we've done some local stuff, but it's amazing how when something good comes along, how fast money gets into it.
Yeah.
When the pump gas drags first came out, I actually in 2006 built a car for the pump gas drags.
The Red Datsun.
And
the Red Datsun that we built on the channel.
Yeah.
Being built for that.
That's what
cool.
Originally built for, and you know, you had to do a drive with it, so the parachute mounts actually a trailer hitch, and you know, the car was set up to be driven on the road. And it didn't take very long for that to get out of control, and ultimately it went away. And you know, the end product was drag week, but you know, we did participate in a local event that was a, you know, drag and drive. We've done some no prep stuff, but nothing like these bigger events. Sick Week, we've never done, but we're going to be attending Midwest and Drag Week. The beauty of the bigger events, we've done the Top Speed Challenge. Hot Rod Magazine did that at Maxton for a number of years, and we participated in that, I think 5 times, and I might have been 4 or 5 times. But we've also done the land speed event up in Loring, Maine, and that community is very similar to that spirit of the community is similar. Everybody is competing, but everybody wants the best for everybody else.
That's great.
They're always looking out for you, and it's short of living that experience, it's hard to describe the community because the bond is so strong. You are climbing a mountain.
Yeah.
And if you break, somebody's going to hand you a part and help you or pull over or haul you to pick up parts or. And bigger events are just incredible.
Well, and it's amazing, and it's a great time for again, you said earlier, like seeing all your friends that attended all those events with you and things like that. And I would think, like, for where you guys live, there's a huge car culture up there. And let's actually pivot a little bit. I was just looking at my notes there. We got to talk about PRI. We hadn't even started talking about PRI yet, because you guys we saw you guys on day 2. I think it was Friday, running around. I saw you got myself. That's a big deal. I always see my race car friends, but you guys were looking for some stuff, and so I'd love for you to tell that story of kind of what you were looking for, and then why, and obviously how having that many manufacturers there helped maybe figure something out.
Yep. So we built this 1974 Datsun that we alluded to earlier on our channel. It's a twin turbo Vortec 4200. And we built it to be the quickest car that we've ever done with a 4200. And one of the things that came out of Midwest Drags was Molly Pistons. They offered to sponsor us and send us a set of forged pistons specially made for the 4200. Unfortunately, they weren't ready. And we wanted to do, a built bottom end in the Datsun. So we used forged rods that we already had and the stock pistons. And as we ran the thing more and more and more, it started to smoke oil pretty good out of the exhaust. And we took it to another event, and the transmission failed. And we kind of said, okay, let's just pause here for a bit. Let's take this thing apart. Let's figure out why it's smoking and fix the transmission. And when we tore the engine apart, we noticed that the pistons were scuffing pretty good. Hang on, I'm trying to find a picture of the Datsun. But the pistons, I don't know if you can see that, but
Yep.
That's what the pistons look like when we pulled them out, and we threw a micrometer on the skirt and compared it to a factory piston, and they had changed by 11 thousandths of an inch. They were 11 thousandths of an inch smaller in the diameter. And so we knew we had a problem, but we didn't know, these engines have a pretty short rod and a very big stroke. So they lay that rod over pretty hard. So that generates a lot of side load on the piston. And I don't know if it, I didn't know if it was, is this a problem that's inherent with that design, or are we just overpowering the stock pistons? So we went to PRI trying to solve that problem. That's one of the great things about PRI is there's a lot of very smart people there. And so we started to, at first I was kind of like, there we go. I was kind of like, trying to be a little coy with how I asked the questions.
Yes. Yep. And you guys built the extended front end, right?
Yeah.
Like you extended like 8 inches or something crazy?
16.
Yeah. 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 So I was trying to be a little coy with how I asked the questions. Like, obviously the piston manufacturers are there because they want you to buy their stuff.
Yeah.
That they wouldn't come if that wasn't the reason. So I was trying to like, okay, I'm, how do I ask this question so that you don't just say, well, just put a forged piston in it, you idiot. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're putting 4 times the output onto a stock piston. Are you stupid?
Yeah. 1,000 horsepower in a 254 cubic inch engine with stock pistons.
Yeah. 4 horsepower.
What were you thinking?
Inch. Like, are you stupid or something? Like, what's wrong with you? So I was trying to like, okay, I'm running a hyper-eutectic piston. Not saying I'm running a stock piston. I'm running a hyper-eutectic piston.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to like weasel my way, and I was amazed at how like receptive everybody was. Like they were like, oh, okay, yeah, tell me more. You
Yeah.
know, they didn't like, oh, well, put a forged piston in it, you dummy. Like, you know, they just were very like, okay, well, let's figure this problem out. They like buying one of their pistons didn't even like enter the conversation with any of them. And so
Right.
as we talked to more people, you know, I didn't even talk about, you know, we're running the stock pistons. I didn't, you know, try to dance around it anymore. So that was really neat that, you know, you can just walk up to, you know, the expert in the industry and they're like, oh yeah, no, I get it, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, as we talk to more and more people, you know, the guys at Ross, they said, you're probably overpowering the piston. Normally, if you see scuffing of the piston, and it's just scuffing the piston, you'll see 1 to 2 thousandths of change, but 11 thousandths, you're really starting to change the shape of stuff. You know, then we started exploring. Well, we only have seen this issue on engines where we had gone to the aftermarket rod, and the aftermarket or the stock rod, which I have right here, they have this little hole here, and that squirts oil up onto the cylinder wall and helps keep the everything lubricated. And they actually added that later on in the design of the engine. You know, the 2006 and later engines have that. The early engines don't. So they added that for a reason.
Yeah. What's funny is like what I love about y'all stuff is like, why did they add that? Like, who's putting out 700 in the GM Skunk Works, and they're like, hey, listen, we need this, you know, need some juice right here.
Well, I mean, we're both my dad and I are engineers, so we know they don't do that just because they felt like it. You know, they did that because they had a problem and they needed to fix it. They don't go adding cost to stuff and making complex shapes that they gotta, you know, I bet that's a hard piece to make. Like, why would you go out of your way to add that? You know, it's obviously they did it because they had a problem. And, so we started exploring that with rod manufacturers. You know, can we add this to an aftermarket rod? And we started noticing a lot of the import stuff had these little divots on the side of the rod. I don't have one here, but they just had 2 little divots on the side. And basically we talked to a whole bunch of people about that. You know, first couple were like, I don't know, the stock rod had that, so we put it on there. But, you know, the more people we talk to, oil actually collects there and it'll actually fling onto the cylinder wall. So we basically came to, you know, we can make this modification to the rods that we already own easily, and hopefully it'll solve our problem. So
going back to talking to the vendors, the company whose rod we had switched to brought up the challenges of trying to modify the rod to make it work the way the factory rod works, or, you know, the other solution would be to have those grooves in the side of the side of the rod. So it as we continued to evaluate what that looked like on the earlier design, that's how they actually oiled the early design. But it's very obvious that the later ones, they used the nozzling effect of the hole as opposed to the slinging of the slot.
Yeah. And if you take apart any early engine, like, chances are those pistons are scuffed. Like, that's just
wow.
I've only taken apart, well, one probably could have been nice, but I ruined it before. But, you know, it's actually the engine I'm working on right now. I've only taken apart one early engine that the pistons were like, yeah, that I'd keep running it, you know.
Wow.
Most of the time they're just scuffed to death, and you know,
250,000 miles will do that.
Yeah, I mean, they keep running, you know, they just start, you know, consuming a little bit of oil. It's, you know, and we saw the same thing with the Datsun. Yeah, it was blowing oil smoke, but that thing still made stupid power. Like we were
Yeah.
trying to turn it down the entire time that thing's been running. It's been like, okay, we got to turn this thing down. We can't get traction. It's just making too much power. And so, yeah, it's neat. And then, the other thing I explored at PRI was I was thinking there's got to be another engine that has a similar, rod stroke ratio that lays the rod over hard. And I just started looking at engines, and then I'm like, oh, K24 Honda. They have the same exact length rod and almost the exact same stroke.
Wow.
And I'm like, man, I wish there was somebody here that knew something about them. And literally, like a couple minutes
turns
later,
around and there's
Brent from TFI Speed, and I'm like, hey,
Hey, man.
awesome. He actually, we have spoken to him in the past before. And, I walked right up to him and I'm like, hey, how's it going? And he was happy to, talk through the issue with us as well. So it's so neat that, a lot of, and even in the car industry, there's a lot of places that you go that I can't tell you that, the 4200, when I got into that, that's how it was. It was like sharing your tune with somebody was like, you're going to charge them for that. It's like, dude, like, I just want a bass tune, like chill out.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to, try to put you out of business or, it's just like, I just want to get my car to run. Like, come on. And it's so nice that, at PRI, they're just, everybody we talked to, there wasn't any like, oh, well, that's proprietary information. It's everybody we talked to was like, oh yeah, sure. Yeah. What do you want to know?
Yeah. Everybody's trying to figure it out just like you are. You know
Yep.
what I mean, they're trying to get the plan there. So why and you've told this on, I think the last time you were on the live stream or podcast with me, but for the new folks that are listening, why the 4200?
So I have, my first hot rod was a 1964 Nova, 4-door, and it was my dad and mom bought it for me from my uncle, and it had a 250 inline six, and he, part of what he sold to us with the car was this book called Performance Chevy 6-cylinder, something like that.
Nice.
I read that book cover to cover multiple times. And, I just, I fell in love with these stupid 250 inline 6-cylinders. And I was starting to develop a supercharger kit for it. And, I was going to start trying to hop the thing up a little bit. And right as I was about to I had made the supercharger kit to be very modular, so I could just like put it on in a weekend and, start using the thing. The thing was really fun. I used a small block Chevy thermostat housing because it had a 1-barrel intake. I used that to go into the 1-barrel and, discharged from a Eaton M90 supercharger from a Thunderbird Super Coupe. And it discharged and it like necked down to this really small diameter into a thermostat housing, into the 1-barrel intake. And I really wish I could have run it, but, things didn't work out. Unfortunately, on my way to work with the thing, somebody pulled out in front of me and I locked all 4 drum brakes and couldn't get stopped in time. And that pretty much totaled the car. And their car was like totally fine. And my car was like ruined. And, old cars. As time went on, we started getting into the LS stuff and the 6-cylinder stuff. It was just like, it doesn't make sense to do this with the old school 6-cylinders. But, when I was doing that, everybody's like, oh, you should check out this Vortec 4200. You should check this, blah, blah, blah. And, I apparently, the job that I was driving my car to, apparently I talked a lot at that job. And I ran into one of my coworkers from that job. It was cleaning garbage trucks. I cleaned garbage trucks for Waste Management.
That's a good story to share.
Yeah. It was, it wasn't as bad as you would think, but it wasn't fun. So apparently I talked a lot about my plans. I want to do this 4200 thing, and I have no memory of this. But eventually I run into this coworker, and he's like, "Hey, did you ever do that 4200 thing?" And I'm like, "No, but I should." And like, I think the next day I had located one for $100 with a Trailblazer, and we went and got the thing. And the reason was I love the old school 6-cylinders, but I like the sound of an inline 6. 2JZs are too expensive. Nissans are too expensive. Everything else is too expensive. And we have this 4-valve per cylinder dual overhead cam engine that is literally everywhere in every junkyard. There's 20 of them in our local junkyard.
Yeah.
They're just going to waste. And surely something can be done with these things. And, as I started, getting more and more into them, started running into, we're not the first to have messed with them. There was this 66 Nova station wagon that participated at Drag Week 2005, funny enough. And, as soon as I saw that thing, it had a dry sump. This is 2005. These engines came out in 2002.
Yeah.
And
this dude's on the edge of it.
Yeah. So these guys had figured out this engine enough that, they had a dry sump system on the thing, big 88 millimeter turbo. And, unfortunately they cheated at the event, but, they still had gotten the thing to go an 862 in the quarter mile, which if you remember the first Drag Week, like there was like 3 cars going 8s, and
yeah, dude, the biggest winner was 850 something.
Right. Yeah. And one of the cars that went 8s was this 66 Nova station wagon with a Vortec 4200. And once I saw that, I was like, no, there's something here. Let's do this. And that's kind of why I did my station wagon. It was LS, twin turbo LS powered, and I switched it over to the 4200 just because, I want to build that car, and I want to go faster than an 862 at some point in a drag and drive. And I don't want to cheat. I want to compete legitimately. And I'd love to go into day 5 with better than their average, and I want to go faster than an 862. So that's kind of the goal for this year. Whether it happens or not, we kind of haven't done ourselves any favor as far as like getting testing time and that kind of stuff. But I got a set of fancy forged pistons that I'm getting ready for the thing. I'm actually working on the engine.
Ask them about the piston. You're gonna laugh when you hear this.
Yeah, this is meant for a Subaru.
Nice. Okay.
So, Subarus.
And guess where that piston was last night?
Oh, yeah, that was chucked up in the lathe, getting the part of the top of it shaved off. So
that's what I'm talking about. That's what I love about your channel too. Is like you guys aren't scared to modify stuff.
Yeah, well, it's just an engine. It's got cylinders and pistons, and it's so yeah. The Subarus have the same exact pin size, and you can get them with the bore that the 4200 has.
Wow.
And I found a stroker piston that was a little bit shorter than all the other ones, and it's a dished piston. So there's meat there that I can shave a little bit off the top, because there's this dish here.
Yeah.
And I can shave that off without weakening the piston. And
so he's got a fixture that he made, takes the jaw chucks off the lathe, and bolts his fixture to the lathe, and is dilating this thing in. And I'm watching this whole show going, all right.
Oh, that's awesome.
And measuring it to the thousands.
Yeah.
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 So
Yeah, I'm trying to take my time with this one. Like a lot of the other, stock bottom end stuff, sometimes I take shortcuts. It's like, it'll be fine, and
It'll be fine.
you know,
It'll
this-
make 700. It's okay.
yeah, it'll be all right. And
Yeah.
I don't know, the 4200s have been so impressive to me because like every one that we've done, they just take it. Like the LS stuff, you make one little tiny mistake and they're like, spin every bearing in the engine. And these 4200s, we ran the one without oil pressure on the coast down, like, I don't know, 10 runs. And, I couldn't get a stupid data log on the thing because we'd run a mega squirt and the exhaust of the car kept glitching my computer out. Like as soon as he went on to the two-step, it would just start popping and the computer would just and stop working. And so I couldn't get a data log on the thing for and then I finally, I was dead focused on this computer. You will data log. And, finally got the thing to stay on alive, all that. And come to find out it's losing oil pressure on the shutdown. And
for 10 seconds.
Yeah, for 10 seconds.
Yeah.
No oil
A lot
pressure.
of the time it's at 6,000 RPM, just and it's just oh no.
That's awesome.
I'm sure you've watched enough of his videos to know that the computers are treated with the most kindest of care.
Yeah.
They've never gone flying on a wheel stand.
No. And these are actually the rod bearings that came out of that engine. And
Wow.
I mean, they're fine. LS stuff, we've hurt so many bearings on those stupid things. And, they're great engines. Once you get them to work right, figuring out the bearing clearance was, likely our issue there. But, that whole learning process was so painful. And these 6-cylinders, they're just whatever. I don't care.
Sure, let's go. Do you think a little bit of that is because of this as compared to, the V setup?
There's no doubt. When you look at the architecture and basically how a 6-cylinder functions, there's so many dynamics going on in a V8. You have 3 pairs of the 4 cylinders that have a power stroke overlap. So when you look at a conventional small block Chevy, 1 and 2 fire back to back, 2 and 1, I should say, 4-3, 6-5. And what's happening is everything's getting loaded to one side and then reverse loading coming the opposite direction. And that's one of the reasons why 4-bolt mains are better. That's why skirted mains are better. There's a lot that has to happen down in the bottom of the block because you are putting 2 full loads downward and
the side
you're putting a side load on in one direction and reversing it 90 degrees later, pushing the crankshaft the opposite direction. And when you look at that strain on the bottom of the engine, it's no wonder the LSs are so good. They've got a 6-bolt main. And everything has kind of followed suit. But they've also gone so far as they've changed and revised the firing order. So the power stroke overlap is actually on 8 and 7, and 2 and 1 don't overlap anymore, whereas everything else overlaps on the front of the engine instead of the back of the engine. And you can say high praises about the LS all day long. But when you look at a 6-cylinder, you have 4 main bolts that control 1, 5, 3, 6, 2, 4. The load across the engine is spread out the whole length of the engine, and it's all vertical, and it's all isolated to that one section of the engine.
Wow.
Whereas on the V8, you've got the shared crankshaft pin load, plus you've got cylinders that are side by side firing that are sharing head bolts. So the architecture of a 6-cylinder is what lends itself to being able to take 40, 80 pounds of boost. Now, we've proven that 40 pounds of boost on these things doesn't work because we
On a
we
stock rod.
on a
Yeah.
stock engine, and we accidentally had
It sounded real good.
Oh my gosh, it lit up the world,
Yeah,
and we
it
wish we
just-
could have gotten data because we went from making 800 and some horsepower to putting a set of back tires on the garage door behind the dyno because it lit the tires up at 40 pounds of boost. And 2 runs later, we had a connecting rod that sailed itself out of the side of the engine and saw the block in 2.
Yeah.
But it's that was no fault of that engine, and we're confident that would have probably gone very high in the 800 wheel horsepower stock bottom end. And when we tore it apart, 5 of the 6 cylinders were perfect. The only one that was damaged was the one that said, goodbye to the connecting rod.
All the rod bearings were mint. I mean, everything was just like mint.
Wow.
And that's a 175,000 mile engine.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot to be said about the 6-cylinder as opposed to the V8 architecture. You will never be able to compete with the length issue.
Yeah.
A V8 is
So much
shorter
easier.
in length and shorter in height. So the packaging in and of itself will always drive people to make that decision. Even a Hemi is shorter than a 4200.
Yeah. Like a big Hemi, not like a Gen 3 Hemi, like a big Hemi.
Yeah, like a real Hemi.
Yeah. Well, guys, I want to say thank you for coming on. The struggle I have anytime you guys are around or on this is, we could talk for 3 or 4 hours pretty easily. So I definitely want to leave people wanting more because, again, just like Bill, I want you guys to come back. There's a lot of opportunity here. I think you guys can really bring a ton of your engineering knowledge into the drag and drive community, which I think is great. And of course, I'm going to see you in 6 weeks at SIG Week or 8 weeks, whatever. And we're going to talk more, and we're going to get a close-up look of the Volvo that's in the back. So, and for everybody that's watching, Nivlak 57 is the channel. I highly recommend you go over and spend hours and hours and hours watching the videos. There's a ton of data there, but there's a ton of really fun stuff. And, my brain works in ways like y'all's. I think, you try and really figure stuff out. So I want to say thanks. I want to, give you guys a chance to tell everybody, obviously I've told everybody where to find you, but what's coming up for the channel. And then me and Eric will shut this thing out.
Yep. So, the Volvo is one of the big things, obviously. I want to do a video on the whole built bottom end thing. We're also going to do some we're going to do a piston flip on the latest build, and that's something that might be a little bit controversial, that the pistons have a pin offset, and we might try that as well. So that's something we have coming up.
Nice.
So
Oil, land speed.
Yeah, we got a video about oil, all about oil. As exciting as that might sound, but trust me, it'll be good. We got some land speed stuff coming up. My dad has a 87 Camaro that we're going to put a 4.8 and 75 millimeter turbo, and he wants to go 200 with that. We got a few more. My Studebaker LT swapped, Gen 5 LT swapped.
Yeah.
Got to finish that up.
LS Fest.
Yep, we want to get to LS Fest this year, and one of the cars we want to take is my Stude. So we got a whole bunch of stuff coming up.
No name nationals. We want to get back there. We stepped on our toes this year at the event, and going to go back and try and redeem ourselves.
Yep. So lots of exciting. There's a few other things that we're not ready to talk about, but
Nice. Yeah. I think you guys probably had the car to beat at No Name Nationals from what I was seeing.
Yep, we were just starting to get it to work, and then no third gear.
Yep.
and still ran 5 miles an hour faster than the second
with no third gear.
than the quickest guy with for 0.6 seconds we had 0 forward thrust and 5 miles an hour faster.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, guys.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to kick you guys out, and me and Eric will recap this show. Thank you very much for coming on. And again, we'll have you on very soon.
Yeah. It was a good show.
Thanks, guys. See you.
See ya.
All right, dude. What do you think, man? Did you have fun? Was it worth?
Wow.
Was it worth driving fast across the across town to get back?
Oh, there was a lot of good information there. Like I'm still processing everything that we just heard. I mean that
Yeah.
that 4200 stuff is so interesting coming
Yeah.
from an LS guy. It's just incredible. Yeah, everything was awesome. Listening to Bill's stories and chatting a little bit, asking him some questions, and then listening to their stories. It was an awesome show.
Yeah, yeah. I am so glad those guys came on. I love Bill's mentality with building the car. I love the built specifically for drag and drive. I know Calvin and Andrew, they obviously build stuff for everything, but I love that the Volvo literally went from gonna be crushed to now that car is going to be 7-second capable car. Now whether they run it that fast, we don't know yet. We're going to have to see at SICK Week and in the future. So it's really going to be a lot of fun. I think 2023 is going to be absolutely nuts. We've got 2 more Drag and Drive news episodes for the year and tons of info coming on that stuff. I don't know if they were here early on, but I literally messaged more than 100 people on Facebook today getting addresses for the racer decals. So that's going to be awesome to see all of those kind of start coming out and hitting cars. And then we have one more show, man. We got one more next week. The Drag and Drive show, episode 3 is going to be a lot of fun. I'm not going to talk about who's coming. I will say it's going to be a ton of fun. Lots of good stuff. So going to try and maybe squeeze in 3 guests next week. I don't know. 3 would be pretty tight unless we keep folks, moving through stuff. And that's hard for me because I love talking to all my race car friends and all that kind of stuff. So, dude, anything you want? Hey, you had a huge week on all of your social. Why don't you give us a recap of that, and then we'll shut this thing down.
Yeah, right now for our 28-day average on YouTube, we're hitting 100K views and 200 subscriber increase. Putting out daily PRI videos. I've got videos scheduled out for the rest of this year. So there'll be a video hitting every day, 7 a.m. on the YouTube Shorts. A couple days, actually, I put one out right before we jumped on. So
Nice.
I'll be checking to see how that did. TikTok is just on a roll right now. I think in the last 48 hours, I've done 350 new followers. Just Instagram, everything, PRI content is banging, and we're growing. And I've got ideas on some new stuff, so I'm going to chat with you kind of offline on a couple things. And we're just, like you said, 2023 is going to be the year, and we're going to keep growing.
Yeah, dude, it's been nuts. Well, I appreciate the conversations you and I talk a lot of the day through Messenger and stuff like that. So, all right, we'll let all these folks go. I'm going to put you in the backstage, and then for everybody that's still in the backstage, stay for just a second. I want to talk to you guys for a second, but I'm gonna kick you out, man. Thanks for hanging out. Appreciate you driving fast to come across town to jump on here with us.
Always.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much again. I appreciate we've been on for 2 hours now. Have had a ton of people in and out, I see, which is great. I'm going to take this and I'm going to chop it up. I'm going to give some good bits of this video into what I'm going to call the quick cuts segments, which will be coming in the next week or so as we lead up to the next Drag and Drive show, which will be next Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. What's that? Eastern? Gosh, I don't know. All right, guys, we'll see you Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern for the Drag and Drive news.